who have already told us you're planning on coming to UCI, welcome to the Anteater family. For those of you who haven't quite registered yet, we hope these next couple of panel sessions will convince you that UCI is indeed the place to be. All of you in this virtual room should be proud of yourselves for already being accepted to graduate school, because that is a huge accomplishment. And making your transition to graduate school can be a large adjustment. So with that being said, I am excited to welcome you to our beautiful campus, and I hope you choose to take advantage of everything that UCI has to offer. Our top tier programs, world-renowned faculty, extensive professional development, and health and wellness services are all things that make UCI stand above the rest. In a few moments, I'm actually going to leave the Zoom room because I'm going to leave you here with this wonderful panel of current graduate students who have very graciously volunteered to be here today, answer your questions, and to tell you about their graduate school experience. Every one of these students is currently a grad student here at UCI. So they will be able to tell you firsthand what their experience has been like and what you can expect. On top of that, each one of these panelists came to UCI from a different country. So they'll give you their perspective on the transition they made when they first got here. Reminder that tomorrow, Wednesday, April 2nd, from 3 to 4 p.m. Pacific time, you have all been invited to another panel filled with various UCI staff and faculty. In this panel, you'll be able to hear more about the different structured programs and opportunities that we have here for you at UCI. So without further ado, I'm going to let each of these students introduce themselves. Panelists, in a moment, please go around the room and introduce yourself, say what you're studying, what year you are at UCI, and what is the #1 piece of advice you have for incoming graduate students. And while those introductions are being made, please feel free to type your questions in the Q&A. And with that, I want to leave you with this wonderful panel, along with Ruth Ortega, Zitlali Sanchez, and I'm not sure if Mariela Menendez is here, but Ruth and Zitlali are going to help moderate this session. And so again, congratulations to everyone and welcome. Thank you. Panelists, why don't you go ahead and start with introductions? Josh, would you like to start?
I'm going to interject just 1 second, if you don't mind, the interpreter here. Is there going to be like a group you're letting in, or is this everybody? Like, are you guys officially starting? Is everyone here?
Everyone is here.
Okay. And then do you guys know who the deaf attendee is, or this is just if there is one that shows up?
If there is one.
Okay, perfect. Okay, I'm so sorry. When you said not everyone was here and then it was just these people, I was like, are we starting? Are we not? I'm so sorry. Okay.
No worries.
Okay, thanks.
Great. I can kick off. So my name is Josh. I'm a third-year PhD student in the Department of Informatics, and there are so many pieces of advice I would like to give, but if I have to choose one, I would say for PhD students, just make sure you get the most out of your remaining time to enjoy, because once you get into grad school, you may not have enough time to kind of juggle different things together. You have to mainly focus on research and other things. So I would probably say just make sure you kind of enjoy the remaining time to kind of chill and then do fun things, but also make sure you do more research on the kind of research that different faculty members do in the department, because I think choosing the right advisor for you as a PhD student is really important. You'll have the time to do so once you enter the PhD program. You'll have the first year to kind of explore different faculty members to see who will be having the best fit for you. But just starting the process early, I think definitely helps. And then for master's students, I think because the timeline is way shorter compared to PhD students, leading up to your graduation, I think just doing more research on the kind of resources that UCI provide will help before entering UCI, because there's so many different resources that UCI has to offer. So just doing that research beforehand will allow you to just tap into those resources right away once you enter your master's degree program. So I think that's just the one piece of advice that came to mind off the top of my head. But I would love to talk about other pieces of advice as we kind of touch upon different topics.
I can go next. Hello, everyone. Congrats, as Jamie mentioned, for getting into UCI. It's a really, really exciting time. And my name is Catherine. I am a fourth year PhD candidate in the Department of Chemistry under School of Physical Sciences. Um, and my piece of advice would be kind of echoing what Josh already said. Um, Try to enjoy this moment. I know it's a very anxiety inducing time to think about the big move that you'll be making to the United States. And starting grad school is, of course, like I'm sure you've heard some horror stories, hopefully mostly exciting stories. So try to make sure that you're enjoying this break, enjoying this excitement of getting into the program that you were really hoping to.
Hi everyone, I can go next. My name is Ishita. I am a third year graduate student in the School of Social Ecology and I study psychological sciences. Um, I don't want to just repeat what's already been said, but um, I I am going to say it because I do want to emphasize this because most students who start graduate school constantly ask me, oh, what can I do to prepare myself for grad school? Like, how can I make the most of the summer before grad school to learn new skills or like brush up on something? And I would just encourage you to not do that. You are um, yeah, you're well equipped, you're well prepared, but also the things that you don't already know, that is what grad school is for. You don't have to come into grad school fully formed, fully learned about everything. You will learn as you go, but this time is really precious. It's one of the only times you're going to get in life where you don't have a lot of unnecessary pressure to, like really continue down one path. So I would say take this time just to relax. And if you want, like take this time to maybe explore interests that you had for a while or like things that you feel like you're just maybe want to give them a shot, but you don't know if you'll maybe get a chance to do those while you're in grad school. So that would be, I guess, one more practical advice. But yeah, congratulations on getting into UCI.
Okay, so that's all our panelists. I'm gonna introduce myself as well since I'll be one of the moderators. There are people basically answering questions if they can. If not, I'm gonna keep an eye on the Q&A to see if there's any questions that our panelists can answer. We do have questions that we already have prepared for them, but again, I'll kind of keep a lookout in the Q&A to see if there's any questions that maybe we didn't think of and there's enough of you asking for it so that the panelists can answer. So again, my name is Ruth Ortega Gonzalez. I am the new manager of Graduate International Recruitment and Retention here at Grad Division. Even though I'm new to the role, I have been working with international students for over 9 years, in a different capacity, more so on the visa compliance side, but now I'm in this role. I'm excited to start in this role. It's more programming, it's working more directly with students. So definitely excited about that. And this is where I'm gonna basically insert a promotion or marketing for the program that I primarily run. It's the Graduate International Connection Program. It's a great program because it does pair you up. So incoming graduate students, it does pair you up with current graduate students as mentors. They're assigned to a variety of graduate students who are interested in basically having a mentor to guide them through basically grad life in UCI by either providing you resources or any advice, even academic advice in terms of maybe they've gone through these same experiences as you or classes or whatever it may be. They're a resource for you there. And then when we get started, so just a reminder, this is a panel for like current graduate students to kind of give you that preview into grad life at UCI. If you want a more, I guess, formal, like, you have admissions questions, you have housing questions, or even visa related questions. That is a session that Jamie mentioned that is tomorrow at 3 p.m. It's various departments that can answer your questions directly. Again, this is more of a informal panel of like students who are just sharing their grad life and to kind of give you a preview into what you could expect at UCI. So we'll get started with the first question since our panel introduced themselves already. And you guys can basically decide who goes first. So I'll just give you the question. So the first one is, why did you choose UCI? Like, why UC Irvine?
You can go first, Catherine, too. Okay. I mean, there's several reasons, but number one, I think the weather and the environment played a huge role too, because so I'm from South Korea, and then I came to the States for the first time in 2014 to pursue my undergraduate degree. That was in New York State, and then I graduated in 2020, and then moved to Michigan to work for 2 years, full time, and then came to UCI. So that was my journey. But as you might have noticed, the only states I've been before coming to California were, Michigan and New York State, which have frigid weather. Especially in Michigan, it has 4 months of winter. It starts snowing in late October around Halloween, and then it continues to snow maybe until March and April. So it's a long winter. And that definitely affected my, I guess, mental health or my mood and just my overall well-being. So I realized that weather and just the warm weather, the sunlight, those things really matter a lot in my life. So California was definitely a good place for me to live in that sense. Yeah, so the cities you live in, the environment, the weather are actually way more important than you think. And then secondly, which might be the more important reason, UCI is one of the R1 top tier research universities, so it has a lot of research resources that it has to offer. And obviously, because I'm pursuing a PhD program, just having those resources are really, really important. And having faculty members who conduct research on the topics that I'm interested in is really important because, as I said, the fit really matters for PhD programs. So if you have like a certain topic that you're interested in doing research in, if there's no faculty members who do that kind of research that you want to do, then even when you have those qualifications and even when you are so ready to do research, then you still can't do research because there's no one to guide you through the research process. So and obviously in my department in informatics, there's so many faculty members that do like a variety of research topics. So that really allowed me to kind of explore different topics that I wanted to do. And then even when I changed my mind and kind of switched on to a different topic, then there's another faculty member that does that. So that gives me the flexibility. So yeah, definitely in terms of research, it was really a good place to be at. So those two are definitely the biggest reasons, but we'll love to talk about other reasons as we kind of proceed. But I'll hand my baton to whoever else wanted to talk. Maybe Catherine, who kind of coincided with me.
Yeah, no, thanks for sharing that. I was asked the same question last year. I was part of this specific panel last year as well, and I have the simple answer and privilege of this was my only offer. But I have absolutely grown to like fall in love with this campus, the community, not only the chemistry community, but also just the overall graduate division community. Um, as Ruth mentioned, I was a part of that GIC program the past several years. I was working as the events coordinator, so I got to see a lot of these cool ways to connect international graduate students on campus, both on smaller group levels, but also on a larger level. I had the privilege of putting together like a symposium where all these international scholars were able to share their international experiences, as well as some of the domestic students who had some international internship experiences or study abroad experiences. As to kind of echo some of Josh's message, I definitely think because of the sheer size of the school, there's plenty of faculty that you could find research interest in, but also there's plenty of resources that are just kind of making sure that there are these layers to make sure that you're staying sane and well and prepared for the next steps throughout your graduate journey. And I think that's really, really first of all, unique to UCI, but also I think there's just something special about how much UCI community seems to care, which is just kind of less tangible, right? How much we value this community setting. Every single faculty, even outside of the Department of Chemistry that I've interacted with, truly care about student excellence and student wellness. And those things I don't hear as much from some of my colleagues who I went to the, undergrad with and who are now pursuing graduate degrees at different institutions. So I would say that's kind of the biggest reason why I love UCI.
I can just like quickly add on a little bit. I completely agree with Catherine. I feel like the academic climate is a really unique and wonderful aspect of UCI. So when you're going into grad school, at least for instance, in my field, psychology, you usually pick the school based on your professor or like your potential advisor. And although like research interests, that's something that's like easier to find out information about. Um, Finding out information about the climate of the school, the environment of the student body, and the professors, like those things can be a bit harder. And I remember talking to some grad students who were currently at UCI at that time, and they just seemed really genuinely happy, like not, it didn't feel like they were faking it. Everyone seemed to get along really well in my department, for instance. And I that felt like a good sign to me back then, and now I am so grateful that I went along with that instinct because I can see how it shapes my everyday life. Grad school is really grueling, so it really helps to have people who are supportive and kind around you and not just like, really brilliant as they would be. And I feel like there's like the UCI campus in general has a lot of that. Even the student body is generally very supportive. It's a really peaceful place to live in. There's a lot to do, but I feel like when you're in a very stressful part of your life, which is like what grad school often is, UCI has been a really good place to ensure that I stay sane and happy through that process.
Thank you for that. Weather is definitely, I think, one of the most common reasons students sometimes pick UC Irvine. It is very sunny Southern California. I can definitely say that that's one of the reasons I stay in California. Just the weather's amazing. Okay, so I'm gonna give you a second question. It has a bit of like two parts to it, so I'll try to go kind of slow and reiterate it if you need me to repeat it. What has been your biggest challenge transitioning to graduate school? Basically talk about like differences between undergrad work and graduate work. And then what was the transition from semesters to quarter systems like? Because a lot of students are sometimes, they start out with semesters and then they go into a quarter system. Personally, I could tell you I was an undergrad at UCI and then a grad student at another school. So moving from quarter to semesters, for me, the semesters felt slow, but I understand that sometimes going from semesters to quarter can be like extremely fast. So I'll leave it up to you to decide again who wants to go first. But again, just what was your biggest challenge? And then just how is it transitioning from semester to quarter systems?
I can jump in first. So I think the biggest challenge for me when I started grad school was probably just managing my time and workload across all the different expectations you have as a graduate student. So a lot of times when you're a grad student, you're doing your own research, you're taking coursework, you're either doing a TA-ship, or you're like on a research assistantship, but you're doing some other kind of work like that. And then you're also just like living on your own and you have all your like life admin to do, like chores and groceries and things like that. And so I found that it was really, even if you like manage time, there are a lot of research tasks, for instance, that would require higher cognitive abilities and like things like writing or I don't know, just like a lot of these different tasks. And it was difficult for me to figure out exactly how to balance my time across all the different types of things I had to do. So I mean, one, you won't have a lot of time because, as I said, like there's all these different expectations that you have, but just managing my energy so I wasn't getting burnt out. Because another aspect of grad school is that some like unlike undergrad where you have all these courses with clearer expectations, you do this, you get an A lot of expectations in grad school aren't so clearly defined, so you really have to set a lot of goals for yourself and pace yourselves. Your Depending on your advisor, some of them are a bit more hands-on, so they'd give you stricter deadlines about some things, but other ones would be, just a bit more hands-off, and they'd sort of expect you to figure out and come up with deadlines even for yourself. And I think just like being realistic with yourself, being kind to yourself at that point, and just taking the time to see, okay, this is what I can do, this much I physically cannot sustain. Like reminding yourself that it's a marathon, not a sprint, and just like pacing yourself accordingly. I feel like that took me a while to get a hang of. Um, and in terms of the semester versus quarter system bit, I feel like the quarter system does accelerate that a bit. So it makes, yeah, the quarters get by really quickly. So with coursework, the good thing is that if you completely hate a course, it's gonna get over a lot quicker. The bad thing is that, yeah, it might make you feel like time is going by differently. And the second half of the year is definitely more challenging, winter and spring, because it's like one mega semester. But you get used to it, and it's not so bad after that.
I can go next. So I guess the major difference between undergraduate work and graduate work is the fact that you need to be more proactive and self-supervising in graduate school. So in undergrad, you have this timeline, right? You have 4 years unless you have an exception and you're intentionally taking a year off or something like that. But usually it's 4 years, and then there's this entire curriculum you need to follow to fulfill your major requirements, and then you just go through those steps and then boom, you graduate. That's how it goes for undergrad. But for graduate school, especially for PhD programs, it really depends on your advisor's advising style, how many years you want to spend in your PhD program to graduate. Some people want to graduate earlier than others. They want to graduate in like 4.5 or 5 years. Then they'd have to expedite the entire process, take the courses really fast, and then just start doing research from year 1 or 2. For some other people, if they want to take time finishing their PhD program in, say, like 6 years, then they can kind of take more time, be more chill about things, explore more in their first 2 years. So it really depends on what your goals are, what your desired timeline is, and what you want to get out of your PhD program. So it definitely gives you more flexibility, but that flexibility also comes with responsibility and proactiveness. So in graduate school, no one really kind of follows you and then tells you what to do. Instead, you have to really define your goals and then define your timeline and kind of figure out the details yourself. So I think that's the major difference. It can be really scary at first, the fact that you have to figure out everything on your own, but there are advisors and other mentors who are willing to help you out, so you can always ask for help. But that process will be, I guess, exciting and fun as well. And then personally, I came from a semester-based school in undergrad, so it's quite different. I would say quarter system is definitely faster paced, obviously, because each quarter ends earlier than a semester ends. So I guess if you're a fast-paced person, that will be exciting. If you are more of the type of person who likes to chill and kind of take things slowly, then it might be a little bit overwhelming at first, but you'll get used to it. I'm pretty sure about that. But one benefit of a quarter system is that because you have more, like higher number of like quarters and semesters that you can fit in within like a year, you have more opportunities to take different classes. Like if you're in a semester-based system, then you only have 2 semesters in a year, right? Then you only have the opportunity to take different courses for those 2 sessions. But in a quarter system, since you have like 3, excluding the summer quarters, then you can definitely take different courses, more so than a semester system. So that really gave me the opportunity to kind of take more courses that I wanted to do. So I think that's one benefit. Yeah, but I would kind of love to hear what Catherine has to say too.
Yeah, I think you two both kind of hit on kind of the logistic parts of transitioning. I want to take the time to kind of share some of my more vulnerable stories of, so I came directly from undergrad, and I lived a really, really packed, busy life as an undergrad student. So kind of learning to time manage and learning to do kind of school in a graduate setting, for me, it felt almost like I felt way more free, and I felt way more like I felt like the workload was way more manageable because I was double majoring and double minoring and doing, like, I was an RA and I was doing all these activities. So actually the transition in terms of academic work was smoother. But what was really difficult for me was also from Korea, and I came out here and went through high school and college with kind of a built-in community of my host family when I was living with them in high school. And I went to college kind of nearby, only like 2.5 hours away. So I was still kind of in touch with this family that I kind of found serendipitously when I was going through high school and college. And coming out here, I went to school kind of near the Great Lakes area. And coming out here, all of a sudden I was alone, had to do taxes, which I had never really thought about, had to think about rent, utilities, all these like adulting tasks on top of having to deal with graduate school and getting to know people, like the social aspect of it, like making sure that I have a community and kind of family like people who are supporting me in this new place. It just kind of felt almost like the first time I came to the United States, where I felt incredibly alienated, entirely foreign, very under-equipped to handle like my daily life. So that was like the biggest challenge. And in terms of that, I definitely want to encourage you guys to look out for resources that are designed to connect you to more people here who are local and who you share interests outside of research with. So GIC could be one of the resources. GPSRC or the graduate division puts on a lot of events to just meet people who are in the same boat as you. And I think connecting with these people early on is really important, because for myself, it was really difficult at first, and I had to have some of my family, like host family members, like fly out to just soothe me for a week or two when I first got here. So yeah, just be proactive about kind of like making sure that your social network is getting enriched as much as your academic work as well.
Great, thank you for that. So the next question is going to be based on like what I've been seeing in the Q&A, which is, I think one of the primary concerns that international students sometimes have when they're living in Irvine or California in general. So one, what is it like living in Southern California, and how do you move around? Car, bus? Kind of talk about that aspect of it, because like I said, I know the international students, that seems to be one of the questions, mobility, because obviously they're here, they want to be able to go places, not only be in academics, but also enjoy their personal life during the weekends or whatever time they have free. So if you guys can touch upon basically how it's like living on it, and then also, is it better to live on campus or off campus? If you have experience with both or just one, talk about the experience that you guys have. Again, if you forget what I asked, I'll just ask me and I'll repeat it.
I can start with this one. I myself have a car at the moment. I didn't when I first came here. My roommate at the time had a car, and it was definitely helpful to get, some just little trips to get groceries or IKEA so that you can get furniture, things like that. It was definitely helpful. It does limit what you have access to if you don't have your own mode of transportation, but that doesn't mean that it's not doable, because it is pretty warm year round. The city as a whole is pretty bikeable if you want to utilize bikes. There are some public transportation as well, which some of my friends who are also international have gone through like 4 years of grad school so far with no access to car, and they've managed to get around pretty well. So I do think it is doable. I think it's just limiting. And I live on campus. I've always lived on campus. I love living on campus because I can walk to my work, and I love walking by the Aldrich Park. Quick shout out. Um, If you don't know what it is, look at the map. Our campus is literally structured around the circular park right in the middle, and all the buildings are kind of like around in a concentric circle way. um, and it's really, really nice. I live basically like right across from across the park from where I work. So kind of getting to walk by that park is always a nice little way to, interact with nature and stuff like that. So yeah, I love living on campus, but I can't speak much about off-campus housing.
Uh,
So I currently live on campus and I don't have a car, so I was just gonna speak a bit on that because I know it's been a huge point of concern in Southern California. So yes, it's a great, wonderful place to live. The weather being wonderful means that you can be physically out and about every day of the year. You don't have to worry about like crazy snow, and usually you don't have to worry about like fires or like crazy rains. That's very, yeah, rare. In terms of having a car, so if you're a master's student, I would say you're here for a really short amount of time. I don't think it, at least like thankfully, if you're living on campus at UCI, you would not need a car. You can get by to most places without one. Just like most places that you need to go to on an everyday basis, you can get to without one. Um, and then there are a lot of great car rental services around. So for instance, there's services like Zipcar, where you can just like rent a car by the hour. There are other services that allow you to rent by the day. I mean, even Zipcar allows you to rent by the day, but yeah, there are a lot of these car rental services, and something like Zipcar has cars that you can pick up from the campus area. They have a bunch of those available. So that's been a pretty useful option for whenever I've had to make like longer day trips. It's obviously not as easy or convenient as having your own vehicle and just being able to go wherever you want to without that hanging over your head. You can't make those short trips really easily. But chances are there's going to be a lot of domestic students who have cars, and a lot of my friends have been really kind enough to help me out at times when I really needed to. Then I also personally budgeted out some things for myself. So when I started UCI, the car market wasn't as great, and I figured out that for at least my needs, occasionally Ubering, taking like a bus or a train, and then some help from my friends, that was far more economical for me at that time. Um, and over time, I've come to realize it really does come down to like a quality of life sort of question. So, in terms of do I need a car to survive on campus, I would say no, you don't. You can get by in a lot of ways, and although there's not great public transport throughout, there are a couple of options for you to like be able to get to, say, LA, for instance. There's a train service that's free for UCI students, and there's a bus that goes to that train station. So it's a bit more complicated, but that I've taken that train a bunch of times. It's really convenient and great. A lot of people I know even take it to avoid LA traffic. And I know for master's students, there's been a concern about like housing locations, whether that's on campus or off campus. Typically, I've seen, so I live in these towers called Verano Towers. I've seen a lot of master's students usually stay in those if they do get on campus housing, and if not, I've typically seen them stay at a place called Park West, which I've heard is a really popular option as well. And that's super close to campus. From what I've heard, there's a bus again that connects that apartment complex directly to campus. So there are a couple of buses like that. So I would look into those, especially again, if you're a master's student and concerned about how you would get around. But yeah, short answer, there are ways, but having a car exponentially increases your quality of life. So think about how long you're going to be here and what your concerns would be.
I'll try to touch upon as many questions as possible related to this, I guess, theme or topic in the chat. So, okay, so there's this bus called Anteater Express that UCI runs, and that bus kind of goes around in different routes, goes to different on-campus housings, and then picks up students, bring them to different locations on campus. So I think that's an answer to one of the questions. As everyone said, having a car definitely increases your quality of life because California is difficult to navigate without a car, although there are public transportation or services like Orange County bus. And then if you're interested in going to LA or other like bigger cities, then you have the option to take trains. Those trains are called Amtraks, or there was another train option too. I forgot the exact name of it, but they're
Metrolink.
a metro, yeah, metro to Metro Link. Was it Metro Link? Yeah. So there are those two train options that you can take to go to different cities like LA or San Diego or even Santa Barbara. But yeah, having a car definitely helps. And then I think I left a response in one of the chats, but um, obtaining a California driver's license, I think is really important. Do it like ASAP, even when you don't plan to get one, because the driver's license basically serves as your identifying ID, in for pretty much anything. So I would highly or strongly suggest getting a driver's license once you come to California. And then in terms of purchasing cars, I do have a car, but when I purchased a car, it was that time of the year. It was like about 2 years ago. It was that time where the used car market was on fire. So used cars were more expensive than new cars even. So it was a very distorted market. Now it's way cheaper, I think. It went down. So I think it's a good time to purchase used cars if you want to save cost but still want to have a car. There are different platforms like Carvana or I think there's another platform that does that. CarMax. Those two platforms are well known for kind of helping people purchase used cars. So that's the two platforms you might want to look into. There are some people who also personally sell cars, like people who are graduating and they're going to a different state. And then they kind of post things on different online communities, looking for people who are interested in purchasing their old cars. So that might be an option too. If you're interested in purchasing new cars, that's fine too. When you're purchasing new cars, there are, I guess, two options. You just purchase a new car entirely, or you have the option to lease. But in order to lease, you usually have to have high credit scores. So that might be a barrier, but there might be other way around it. So those are two ways to purchase cars. Uh, let's see. For housing, I used to live in Verano Towers, which is a type of house within the Verano Place community. So actually, I'm gonna kind of circle back to a more fundamental point. So graduate housing, we have two communities usually. One is called Palo Verde and one is called Verano Place. And Verano Towers is just one of the types of apartments within the Verano Place apartment community, and that's where I used to live for the past 3 years. But I did recently move to off-campus housing to live with my fiance. So that's a different experience. But I think there was a question about the cost comparison. I would say living on campus is significantly cheaper um, compared to living off campus. So that's something you might want to refer to. Um, so if you want to live off campus, it will be a lot of financial burden. So if you were to do that, you might have to find roommates or housemates to kind of share the financial cost with you. And then let's see if there are other questions that are relevant. I think that was pretty much it. But yeah, but we hopefully we can touch upon other questions in the chat too, while we discuss other topics.
Thank you for that. And thank you for Josh for keeping questions, because that's where I noticed a lot of the questions were coming from in terms of transportation. Okay, so I have another question. And I also saw this kind of being mentioned in the chat a lot. I think it's like the balance between like working and if there's work options that they can basically take advantage of. So What was your experience basically TAing and research for the first time? When training did you receive before? Like, what training did you receive before you started getting your first TA assignment and ongoing? So basically, your entire experience being a TA, because there was a lot of questions about that experience, what it means, like do you have constant training all the time, or is it just like you're TAing, here you go? So if you can touch upon like your experience with that, because I do see that a lot of students seem to be interested in kind of getting in there and being a TA or even a research assistant if you have any experience with that, or a GSR. So if you can touch upon those experiences, that would be great.
So I don't know if this is the norm in every department. I'm just gonna talk about what my experiences have been TAing for my department. I've TA'd pretty much every quarter that I've been at UCI, and when I first started UCI, my department had like a few days long like TA training program. It was called Tap Tap or something, and then that was pretty much the only um, training that I've received formally to be a teaching assistant. And then we went through a lot of things about how to be an effective instructor, but also how to deal with student conflict issues, like manage issues that come up in class. A lot of these little things, all of those were covered in that training period. And then after that, a lot of it, yeah, has been learning on the go. But I think there's some misconceptions to maybe clear up regarding like what your TA expectations would be. So a lot of times students think that like being a TA would require a lot more like active role, like you would think that you maybe have to play a lot more of an active role in teaching students. Um, Typically, that is not the case, especially when you're starting off grad school. So, a lot of TA work can be behind the scenes. A lot of times, you're going to be grading, helping your instructors maybe like create or come up with the exams, printing out things. So, a lot of admin work as well. And so, for those things, it's not like that becomes less scary and you need less formal training in it. Um, it so TA assignments usually again this differs from department to department. In my department, we have a huge undergraduate student body who like take psychology courses. So that means that there's a lot of demand for TAs, and you usually list out your timing availability for that quarter, and you list out maybe like even what courses you're interested in. And then again, in my department, they try to sort of match you. So if you're a first year student, they will try to pair you up with a more senior grad student in your TA-ship, because our courses are usually so big that we require multiple TAs for the same course. And then that way you can sort of learn from the other, like the senior grad student who can help you out with little things about, oh, where should I get this specific thing printed out from? Or where do I take the exams? Where do I like procure this? How do I arrange for this? All these like very UCI specific things. Most of it I've been able to learn from other graduate students who've been senior to me in their TA-ships. And then even if you don't have a grad student in that same course, any senior grad student in your lab who has TA'd, I am 100% sure they'd be more than happy to help you out with those little details. But yeah, usually TA assignments do take into consideration your area of expertise as well, but don't worry too much. It usually doesn't end up mattering a whole lot. A lot of your workload will not be super like student facing. At least like you wouldn't have to teach them basically. Usually at most you'll host discussion sections, and those are not as intense.
I think there was a question directed to me about the chemistry department in the chat. I just wanted to quickly answer that because I think it kind of will give you hopefully an idea of how the stipend works, at least in the Department of Chemistry. I don't know how broadly applicable that is, but the way it works in our department is that you every quarter you can either be employed as a TA or a GSR, and they have slightly different quarterly stipend amounts that were negotiated with the union recently. So it kind of depends like how much you're going to get paid, what title you hold, and how many quarters you have held that title for. So with TA-ship, the longer you teach, like I think it's every 3 quarters that you teach, you get a slight raise in how much you get paid. The decision of whether you TA or work as a GSR just means that you are funded for half of your time. So like 20 hours of employment that you're getting paid for is your research work that your PI or other funding sources are giving you that amount for doing that work. And the other 20 hours, whether you are TAing or GSR, you're considered a student. So kind of the classes that you take, you do have to manage a full-time student title. So you're going to be enrolled in at least 12 units of classes. And that includes however many units of research credit. And those 20 hours, the rest of the 20 hours should be more for your, the research work that you do for your courses. The way you're determined whether to do TA or GSR depends on how much funding is available for not only just for in your research lab for your like PI, but also specifically for your project. So that the money that you get paid will get pulled from different sources. And if there's not enough sources for that research funding to be like available for your payment, then you may be nominated to TA. And TAing is just kind of another way for you to get paid through the department. And that just comes from a different bulk of money. I hope that answers that question.
I can go next. I think Catherine already touched upon like the broad logistics of how everything works, but just to add a little bit onto it. So usually for PhD students, you have 2 means to receive your stipends. One is called teaching assistantships. The other is the GSR, which stands for graduate student researcher positions. So GSR comes from someone else that is not your department. So it's usually your advisor who has enough personal funding to kind of provide you that funding on a monthly basis. So that's how GSR works. But it can also come from fellowships or other sources of funding. So that's how GSR works. And the TA ships, if your advisor for some reason cannot sponsor you with GSR, then you receive the TA ship, and that comes from the department. So you'll be assigned to teach a specific, not teach, but I guess assist the professor in teaching. So that's how teaching assistantships work. And then I think a lot of people are asking how the TA assignment works. It also depends on the department. I think some departments just randomly assign you. In some departments like us, we are given the opportunity to provide our preferences and our past experiences so that the department can do their best to kind of match us with the courses that might be the most relevant for us, and then also kind of catering to our preferences. But it's always not guaranteed because the supply and demand and a lot of these different circumstances don't always like help us out. So but anyway, yeah, so it depends on the department. So you would have to kind of check out how the TA assignment works for your department. So yeah, contact the department to kind of get a better understanding of how the TA assignment works. But that's overall, that's like on a high level how TA ships and GSRs work. And then I think there was a question about fellowships too. For international students, I think it's usually more limited and more difficult to receive fellowships because a lot of the fellowships eligibility uh, like explicitly states that you have to be a green card holder or a US citizen, so that makes our lives harder. But there are still some options. I'm not really aware of any like external sources, but once you enter UCI, a lot graduate division and a lot of departments offer internal fellowships, and you might want to apply to those and then try to get the most out of it. So that's kind of the fellowship opportunities that you might want to tap into. And then what was the other question? Was it just our experiences as TAs? Okay. I mean, it can be stressful because if you don't have experience just dealing with a lot of undergrad students, at the same time, it can be overwhelming at first, but it can also be a rewarding experience, I guess, because you're gaining more teaching experience, and especially if you want to be a professor in the future after you graduate, then that teaching experience is invaluable. Um, and then I would say, based on my 3 years of TAing experience, I think the grads division or the department tries to give you like 60 to 70 students per TA to manage. So, for example, if you have like 180 students in total, then they try to assign maybe like 3 TAs or two for that kind of class. But that also depends on the department because each department has different availability for the number of TAs they have and things like that. So that's just like a high level information I wanted to provide. Yeah, but I'm not sure if Ishida was to add more. I think I talked too much, but
Yeah, those numbers definitely vary by departments because in mine it's you usually get assigned to like 150 students per TA or sometimes even more. But I think a lot of that depends on the expected workload and requirements for that course as well. So there's still like a max number of hours per week that you cannot exceed as a TA, which is like 20 hours per week. And so any assignment or anything that would be made would keep that in mind, that to like make sure that you're not going beyond like say 20 hours a week in your working.
Okay, well, thank you for that. We are just about, ending this because we are at, well, here 8:56 a.m. So we're gonna wrap up. Thank you to everyone who attended. Thank you to our panelists for taking the time out of their day, especially because I know it's early in the morning here. Hopefully you got your coffee and we're awake for this. Uh, so I know there's still questions that may have been unanswered. Some of them were a little bit more technical questions now for the panelists. Again, tomorrow there is basically another town hall where you will be able to ask staff panelists questions that are more funding based, housing, all of that, if you wanted to ask them. This was more for them to kind of just give you the experience they've had as grad students at UCI. And I will be ending that. And before I actually end it, I do want to repeat. So the GIC, which is the Graduate International Connection Program, I will be sending out an interest form soon to incoming graduate students. So if you're interested in signing up, that'll be there. We do have a website in terms of if you wanted to check out more information, and we also have a podcast. Again, I'm new to my role, so just kind of bear with me as we move along. But again, thank you for attending. To the panelists, thank you. And we'll be in touch with everybody. Have a great day.